What is a perfect film? It's this one right here. Perfect blue, more like perfect mood.
Somebody asked for a
Video alert.
video.
What makes a perfect film? Some might first look to the bare essence of any storytelling medium. The story. The departure from home. The hero's rocky descent. A flash of lightning signaling one's destiny, and the orchestra-backed battle with fate. A shocking twist. A heartbreaking reconciliation. A cathartic escape. Maybe you look to memorable characters. Those who speak so closely to your own humanity that it feels a piece of your life has been given skin. Those who are so detached from reality that you can't help but be swept away by their whimsical being. Maybe it's the character interactions that keep you in. The band of brothers. The lovers. The warring principals. There are so many places to look. So many criteria that can just be checked off. Visuals. Pacing. Sense of atmosphere. World building. Believability. Unbelievability. Soundtrack. Etc. Dick cetera. Thankfully, there is flexibility in the execution. It is not simply a task of checking off a series of boxes, but an absolute realization of the film's purpose. Is every scene, every emotional note, line of dialogue, instrumental break, every piece of this organism working towards the same purpose? In the case of Perfect Blue, yes. And in this regard, I believe Perfect Blue is a perfect film. One that devotes its whole being into delivering its spooky message, the inherent humanity of parasocial relationships. Perfect Blue follows the gradual psychological breakdown of J-pop idol Mima as she transitions from idol to actress. We watch as her sense of identity crumbles as she succumbs to the desires of the industry, an industry with needs and wants that often conflict with her own. Her internal split further aggravated by an objectifying and oppressive fan base that refuses to leave her alone. As viewers, we become as helpless as Mima, unable to distinguish between reality and fantasy as Mima's world becomes misshapen through her broken sense of self. What is reality if it can't be distinguished from dream? Who can we trust when we can't trust ourselves? Perfect Blue has always received praise for its continued relevance and presentation of its darker themes surrounding the entertainment industry. The alienation caused by fame, dependence on one's abusers due to a systematically weakened sense of self, the perpetuation of exploitation by those who were once abused, the brutality of an industry that directly profits from the objectification and exploitation of young people, generally women, and of course, why this exploitation is so profitable. What is actually being sold when we see every new up-and-coming streamer, TikTok influencer, or K-pop idol? Sure, you could say the bops, the personalities, the characters, but ultimately, I feel it boils down to parasocial relationships. I feel like this term gets thrown around a lot, but for those unaware, it is a completely one-sided relationship where one person spends energy and time towards someone who doesn't even know they exist. Perfect Blue's depictions of parasocial relationships are hauntingly accurate. Yes, there are people who you might consider less extreme. Maybe you even know people like this. Casual fans who might stay in the know, occasionally following Mima's events and continuing to seek out content related to her, only finding their limitation when she behaves in a way that's outside of their desired expectation of her. They don't lash out, they leave, but ultimately it displays their view of Mima as a personality that is owned, as opposed to an actual human being. And of course it gets worse. We are also given examples of the depraved. Mima Mania's obsession drives him to disgusting extremes. He views himself as Mima's protector, as her savior, using this misguided moral high ground to justify the lengths he goes to objectify her. In the end, when his desired image of Mima is shattered, his savior fantasy reaches fruition, and he attempts to rape and kill the new Mima, because he feels owed, because he feels she belongs to him, because she is not a person, she's an idol. And most importantly, there's us, the viewers. We watch as Mima discovers her fan website for the first time, and we feel an overwhelming sense of dread as we realize that she has been watched too closely for a very, very long time. We see as she agrees to an act she is not comfortable doing, and we feel the same pang of guilt as we maybe recall instances when we chose to please those around us instead of speaking out. We see as her trust is abused and her sense of self is further torn apart and we feel the same rage and indignation towards a wicked world. We watch as she turns to her fan website, once the cause of her fear and distrust, now turned to the only way she can connect to reality. We see her paranoia, her nightmares, her disconnection, and we wish we could comfort her or tell her to focus on what she wants for herself, all the while forgetting that we know almost nothing about Mima. Despite the movie showing how unreliable Mima is as a narrator or how disjointed our perception of Mima might be, our sympathy and attachment to the character are almost instantaneous as soon as we feel that she is a victim. And that's interesting to me for several reasons. Personally, pity and sympathy aren't usually the first things that pop into my head when thinking about parasocial relationships. Generally, when I hear the term, I think of the creeps, the Mimomanias, people who sneak into their favorite streamer's home due to perverted delusion, psychopaths who send mail bombs, stans who think they'll be besties with their favorite content creator or celebrity because our sense of humor is just really similar. By contrast, the notion of pity or sympathy seems so much more human. Of course I feel bad for her. She's going through a tough time, a traumatic experience. Is it a bad thing to feel sympathy? Is it wrong for me to wish the best for this person? No, of course not. As a human being, it should be inherent to feel for a fellow person. But it's interesting to me because it seems like this inherently good human trait is used as justification for invasion. It's interesting to me because a sense of sympathy is the exact moral reasoning Mimomania used to justify his brutal assault on Mima. It's interesting to me because the camera lens on Mima constantly twitches, suggesting that we are being just as invasive as those who flock to Mima's website. And despite realizing this, despite the uneasiness that comes from the understanding that we are watching something private and vulnerable, we continue to watch. Why? Because we want to see how the story ends. Will she make it out? Will she meet a morbid fate? Won't we be satisfied either way? Perfect Blue is horrifying in that you go into it with the context that you are watching a movie, a romanticized and shiny representation of real life. You are there to be entertained. Your expectations as a viewer is that you want a dramatic and glamorous ending, but on my first viewing I failed to realize that it is with this same mentality that I might view real-life celebrity or influencer drama. To be clear, I don't make active attempts to follow drama. The closest I might get is watching commentary channels tackling topics, but I've never felt that I go out of my way to dig into the exciting flings and fuck-ups of the influential. But even then, and I might be telling on myself here, but isn't there an entertainment factor in hearing about these conflicts? Because you can extend emotional energy in response to them despite the conflicts and individuals having absolutely nothing to do with your actual personal life. When you see Colleen Ball-Licker's God-tier ukulele performance, isn't it fun to feel flabbergasted at how completely moronic a human can be? When all of that makeup YouTuber drama was going on, wasn't it fun to see who would come out on top with the next shocking plot twist that shows that, hey, I was actually the good person all along and I'm being taken way out of context? Because as a viewer, you always win. If someone is vindicated or finds a happy ending, you can feel good for them because they were the victim of a misinformed crowd of haters and they finally found justice. If someone crashes and burns, you can laugh at their demise because you know for a fact that they're a shitty person. Because we know these people and what they deserve, whether it's blessings or burnings at the stake. And then we get to the end of Perfect Blue. We get to see if Mima gets what she deserves. We see a successful Mima seemingly leaving her past trauma behind. She gets into a sleek and stylish sports car, looks in the rearview mirror, gives a chic smile, and you hope that she will clear up all of the ambiguity from the movie. That she will definitively show that this is the real ending and that you are justified in whatever emotion or relationship that you have formed with her character. You know something's wrong. You know that there's no way that everything that has happened can just be wrapped up so quickly. But you still hope. And then she says this.
No, I'm the real thing.
And then the credits roll, and that feeling that something is horribly wrong completely swallows you. Because even though it's exactly what you wanted, it makes no sense. Because things don't just get resolved like that. She shouldn't just be okay. Maybe this is just another part of the TV script. Maybe the lights will flash back on and she'll be back on set. Maybe she'll wake up and she'll be back in her room, Mima's room, again. This can't be the real Mima, right? Didn't her voice sound a little bit different too? Etc, till I come back to the point that I didn't know a fucking thing about the real Mima. And that is Perfect Blue. Obviously, a movie isn't real life, and real life isn't a movie. But I think it's shockingly easy to forget that when we look at other people, especially those who choose to show more of their lives. Perfect Blue is not in defense of celebrities or influencers, nor does it seem like an attack on those who happen to form parasocial relationships with influencers and the drama they get into. Rather, I feel it's a cautionary tale with you as the main character. It shows just how easy it is for you to believe that you know who someone is, how naturally that happens, how easy it is to feel and develop expectations for someone who's not even real.
Like, come on my face, subscribe.